name's host Eric, and I'm the host talking with people here with host Zachary and Robert. Robert, and we're talking about the shooting of Mr. Kinsey. I forget his first name. He is a gentleman who worked in Florida as a behavioral assistant at a home for mentally retarded people, autistic people in particular. Zachary, you want to explain what the scenario was?
Um, yeah, so apparently there were like reports of a man threatening to shoot himself. I guess someone may have called in and said that or something. I'm not really sure. It just the report in the article. So apparently they show up on the scene and there's a 47-year-old man, Charles Kinsey, and he's a therapist who works people with disabilities, and he's trying to get his 23-year-old autistic patient back to the facility. And the autistic patient is sitting there playing with like a truck, and he's yelling at like Kinsey to shut up, or the officer's there, and he like tells them to both get on the ground. And so Kinsey gets on the ground on his back, and he like has his hands up, and he's saying like, "Don't shoot, don't shoot." Like this is like my patient or something. And he's just like, I couldn't really understand what they were saying in the video, but he's basically like, there was no weapon on him. They found no weapon on him and everything. So he's sitting there like lying up like that, and apparently got shot 3 times.
He
There were 3 shots
three
fired, and
times, and he hit him once, I think.
I see. Um, so yeah, I'm not really sure what happened. This seems like a very weird situation. Like, why the fuck, like, would they? Yeah, I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I mean they just really wanted to shoot him. I'm pretty sure that's basically what it boils down to. There's got to be some reason we can shoot this guy. He's really trying his damnedest not to let us shoot him. It's frustrating. That's basically the gist of it. It seems to me.
I really, I feel like there has to be.
Why is it the video cuts out right before they shoot him?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what's weird to me too. It just kind of like randomly cut out. I don't really understand. I don't know. I'm watching the video again. I'm just completely confused. I really don't know. Like, I don't know if they cut the video out because there isn't video there, or if they were trying to censor it because it's a public news article. But I really don't fucking know. This
Okay,
shit's so
see.
ridiculous, though.
So we're talking right now about the so-called war on cops and the cops' war on people, and this poor gentleman who was doing everything exactly right and nevertheless got shot. It's like these cops are like poorly restrained animals or something that you have to be really careful around them or else they might just suddenly attack you. It's strange.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like from the video, I mean, he did nothing wrong. Like I just don't see there was anything justified to shoot him. And it's like it's not even that he did nothing wrong. It's that he did the opposite
Right.
of doing something wrong. Like he literally like lied down, had no weapon on him, like put his hands up in the air and said like, "Don't shoot me." like 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 the opposite of doing something wrong. The
Right.
complete inversion of that. It's not even he was doing something neutral, you know?
Right. He was doing everything in his power to reassure the cops that did not need to be shot. But they're like,
Uh,
okay, come on, guy, come on, do one little thing that lets me shoot you, please, please, please. The cop is thinking. It's the only thing I can understand. It's the only explanation I can come up with. Right? The cop really, really wanted to shoot him.
but I don't think this is. this is definitely not one of the probably the reason why I didn't hear about it is because it's not something the media can use to play into this entire this narrative. We know there's a problem with police unarmed people, but the media has definitely tried to turn it into this big race war thing,
Well, this is
and it
useful
looks
for
like
that if it wants to. He's black. The cop's white.
the cops are black
Uh,
in the
what do you mean?
video at the least.
But not the one who shot him. Here, look at this article.
Wait, where?
You're probably reading a different article than I was reading. It
Yeah,
says
that's probably
here.
a different article.
It says here that in the Washington Post article, it says that the lawyer for Kinsey says that the cops have conceded that it's a white male police officer. So it's hard for me to maneuver when I'm recording, but if you want to look it up, it's the Washington Post article.
Uh, okay, let's see here.
So
Washington Post.
if that's the case,
Florida.
if it is a white male, then the other thing is, I'm curious also as to what the lawyer about the same thing the lawyer is curious about, which is why exactly is it that this cop hasn't been immediately fired and arrested? You know, why this prolonged investigation? But were anybody else, they'd be immediately arrested.
That's true. So Washington Post. Maybe I'll just go on the main site. Maybe it'll show up on there.
Any of our other guests here have anything to say about this topic in general, the police shootings, and this guy in particular in Orlando? JC said, what? It's sad and inhuman. Oh, you mean you were talking about my beekeeper song? That's not very nice, JC. She's not really talking about my beekeeper song. She's talking about the police shooting people for no good reason. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I hope to see the procession of news stories about cops getting shot and citizens getting shot by cops to end. You know, I want to see that procession of stories end. I want to see.
It's probably not going to end. It's probably going to get way worse from here on out.
That's very sad.
It
I
is
hope
sad.
you're wrong. I hope you're wrong, but I can see why you might be right.
What happened to Bo?
I think he bailed. I don't know. Any other thoughts on this police issue before we wrap it up? This is a short one, but um, cops, if we want to bridge the gap between cops and citizens, you need to start firing that guy immediately and arresting him. Like what the South Carolina cops did when they saw the video of that one cop shooting that black guy who was running away in the back. And then lying about it and all that kind of stuff. They charged him with murder right
The
away.
Ferguson shooting?
No, not the Ferguson one. The South
The
Carolina
Ferguson shooting?
one. The South Carolina one. I mean, that's the thing. I read this other thing that made me annoyed this evening about cop shootings, which was a New York Times opinion article that was by an ex-cop that said, I refuse to believe on the war on cops. And it tried to position itself as very pro-citizen cop cooperation. But it said in one point of it, it said, you know, so okay, fine. You know, the 8 dead police officers versus 2 dead black men. And I'm like, hold on a second. You know, you're talking about this Philippe Castile and the guy in Baton Rouge as though they were isolated incidents and not considering the fact that there's this massive history of violence against unarmed citizens. And it needs to be acknowledged. That's one of the big problems. The police need to acknowledge this. They need to stop trying to protect their own when they do these things. That's number one problem. If we could trust police departments to police themselves, I think we wouldn't be so frustrated. In general, people wouldn't be so frustrated. People wouldn't feel justified in violence so much. They're not justified, especially not in the violence in which they're engaging, which is not even directed at the individuals who did the harm. But police unions are a cancer, and they justify any type of sort of police violence for any reason. They try to. They try to make it so that no matter what your justification is, your violence is fine if you're a police officer. So I mean, I don't know. That's my perspective on that.
I don't know. I mean, I just watched a video again, and if you really look, if you pay attention to like, I mean, you have to kind of slow it down. But where he's putting his hands up, I mean, those cops could have been, he could have been calling on some divine by divine power like that. You know, you got to really take the handle on that situation. I mean, it's dangerous.
He could have easily been signaling the other gang members.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know with these type of situations.
With those kind of people, right? You just don't know.
He knew that if he shot him in the leg, then he would immediately stop the gang signal and cover up the wound.
Right.
And so that it was very strategic on the cop side, actually.
See, the problem is, of course, he shot him in the leg, and then he meant to stop doing the.
Oh my God! Wait, JC, that is so fucking untrue. That is so untrue. That is so fucking untrue.
If you didn't have police, crime wouldn't increase.
That authority would not go away. It would just be inherited by something else. And if there was no public police, it would be inherited by a private police, which could be subject to manipulation. I'm not saying that the current police is not corrupt, but it would leeway for an even more corrupt system to start, where it's already in the like. Go on.
I'd argue that we have to have police. The problem isn't that they exist; is that they're not constrained to their proper duties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's true that if we stopped having cops enforce non-crimes, that crime wouldn't increase. Right. Cops only need to come when called. Or jacked off or something like that. Ba-da-da-da. A little inappropriate humor for you. Sorry about that. Let's move forward.
What was that? What did you say?
Don't worry about it.
I missed it. It was probably a good joke.
It probably wasn't. Okay, so yeah, I agree with that. I think the cops need to be responsive to citizen complaints. And they'd say, well, in this instance, they were responsive. Somebody said someone was walking around with a gun threatening to shoot himself. If somebody's walking around with a gun threatening to shoot himself, the solution is not, let's go shoot him.
Stop right there. It's like, not telling me to put on a seatbelt.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I still think that they should patrol the roads. I mean, I know like it doesn't fit in the libertarian framework to if someone's going down the road at like 90 miles per hour, but I would prefer that not to be a thing, especially in this area.
Well, I mean, I feel you. There are some. I think we can agree that there are certain traffic laws, though, that are more egregious to enforce than others. Seatbelt laws, in my opinion, being one of them, because you're not endangering anybody else at all. You can't even make that argument.
Yeah, the seatbelt thing definitely seems strange. I'm trying to think of any justification for it.
Well, the justification is people who don't.
Because if they're dead, how are they going to charge them? How are they going to get money with a ticket if they're fucking dead, Eric? Okay. If they fly out their fucking window when they run into someone's building or some shit, and they kill themselves, like, can charge. No longer can get money for the police force.
Good point. There's very little property to be seized when people are dead. Well, actually, maybe that's not true. Maybe you can seize all the dead people's property. Well, look, hey, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, but your husband wasn't wearing his seatbelt when he died in this auto accident. That means he's subject to property seizure. He was in commission of a crime while he committed another crime, which is dying in an accident while not wearing a seatbelt. So, as a consequence, we're going to seize your house. I think that's a good policy. We should implement that.
I disagree with you, JC. Although I do think I definitely don't think there should be any. I'm not sure how it works in all the states. I think it differs depending on the state, but in some areas, the police have to meet a certain quota, like a certain amount of like tickets per month and shit like that. So that it just seems completely ridiculous to me. But in this area, like at least in this area, most of the roads are in mountains, and you can't see around curves. And if someone goes around a curve at like 100 miles per hour and they run into someone, like that, because the roads are fucking small, like they should be at fault for that, you know.
Right.
And I want that. I want at least some sort of, I guess, active presence to make sure that people aren't going around curves at 100 miles per hour.
Active presence. Let's have some active presence. That's what I ask for every Christmas morning. I say, Santa, I'm tired of giving me this passive
Active
shit.
presence.
Yeah, I'm tired of giving me these passive presents. I want these presents to open themselves. Okay, this is the problem
Well,
I'm having. You expect
so
me
it just
to do
makes me
all the
feel
work.
better. Oh my god, JC, I'm not even gonna argue this fucking point. That's so ridiculous. Like in this area, people would definitely fucking speed around these curves if there wasn't a force there.
Well,
Maybe not everyone, but there
but
would
they
be
do
people.
anyway, and the civil liability system helps to resolve that, right? It's not like it has solvency. You still have crazy people who, if you're crazy enough to drive that fast, you're crazy enough to drive that fast and risk a ticket, right?
I suppose.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks for watching Talking with Fifth People, and as per my
But
usual
wait, I just
instructions,
want to make one more point though. It's like that's true, but if they're flying around okay, one of us might not even get killed, you know. But let's say there's a road where police they don't have an active presence there, you know. Um, if someone comes around the road and they're flying because they're taking the risk of doing that, and they hit my car, and none of us are hurt, but they ruin my fucking car now, and they don't have insurance on their fucking shit for whatever reason, then it's like, I'm the one who gets fucked here. You know, they don't give a fuck.
yeah, I mean that's the justification for insurance mandates. So, like in California, we have an insurance mandate. You can't drive without insurance. But I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, it doesn't prevent the thing you're talking about happening from happening. It just enables people
I think
to.
that's just an interpretation of it.
Okay, I
I
mean,
mean, maybe if we hit,
I'm not fighting you on the point that extreme violations of traffic laws are less of an egregious violation of rights than are things like seatbelt laws or whatever. I'm just saying that whatever justification we give the cops for pulling people over, they tend to abuse it, right? They tend to pull people over for reasons other than the ones we want. So it might seem like going 85 is a ridiculous amount of speed to go, but I got a speeding ticket on 395 for going 85. The road was wide open. There wasn't anybody driving at all. I didn't even notice I was going 85, and it wasn't too
I
fast.
think the road is definitely something to take into account. I mean, like the highways here. If someone's speeding on the highways, I think that's pretty forgivable because the highways here are like they're pretty open, honestly. And if you're going like 80, like I've gone 80 on the highway and haven't hit anyone before, so it's like I have broken that law and everything turned out fine. But in like more, there's isolated areas here that it would definitely be a speed limit would definitely be a lot better to have. But it definitely doesn't apply. Like there needs to be a dose of reasoning, you know, to go along with it. You know, and the cops need to have that dose specifically. You know.
Right.
And one thing too, they don't do anything about the deer. The deer need to get ticketed every time they jump out in front of us and fucking ruin our vehicles here. They need to be
Right.
held accountable for that. You know.
Right.
Well,
Right.
some of the time they get, you know, fucking ran over, but half the time they fucking get away.
You try to take them to court. It does no good at all.
They have no metacognition. They don't understand. You know, it's like they're not accountable. It sucks.
Jay-Z's defending their property rights to the area of the road was built on. That was my land first, bitch. I'm a deer.
That doesn't work into my property acquisition metaphysics.
Oh, okay, good. All right, well,
There needs to be a level of metacognition.
Thanks for watching Time with Faith, people. Please go to the fridge right now. Look, see if you have cheese. If you do, eat it. It's the best thing you can possibly do for yourself.